Camp Gordon, Georgia, November 1917.
The Georgia sun beat down mercilessly on the parade ground, turning the red clay into dust that coated everything: uniforms, rifles, throats. Private Alvin York stood in formation with Company G, his new Enfield rifle heavy on his shoulder, his mind heavier still. He'd arrived just days before, drafted despite his plea as a conscientious objector. The local board in Jamestown had denied him. His little Church of Christ in Christian Union wasn't on the government's approved list for exemptions. "Don't want to fight," he'd written plain on his registration card, but here he was. The camp was a whirlwind, thousands of men from every walk of life, drilling endless hours, sergeants screaming corrections. York, tall and gangly with a Tennessee drawl thick as pine tar, drew eyes from the start. In the barracks that first evening, as men unpacked and swapped tales, a wiry private from Brooklyn named Pusher Murray spotted him. "Hey, look at this rube. Where you from, farm boy? Got straw in your hair?" Laughter erupted from the bunks around. Another chimed in. "Bet he's never seen a city bigger than a crossroads store." York just nodded polite, unpacked his Bible, and said little. But the barbs stuck. Hillbilly, Bible thumper, yellow streak. Training intensified. Dawn reveille, calisthenics till muscles screamed, then marches with full packs. York kept pace easy. Years of plowing steep fields and chopping wood in the Valley of the Three Forks had forged him tough. But bayonet drill was different. The instructor demonstrated vicious thrusts into straw dummies. In and twist. Kill the Hun. When York's turn came, he stood frozen, rifle lowered. Sergeant Bernard Early, a no-nonsense veteran with a scarred face from pre-war service, barked, "York, charge that dummy like you mean it." York shook his head slow. "Can't, Sergeant. My faith don't allow killin'. Thou shalt not kill. It's plain in the scriptures." Murmurs rippled through the ranks. "Conchi," someone muttered. "Coward." That night in the barracks, the teasing turned sharper. Pusher led it. "So, farm boy, you're going to pray the Germans away or hide behind us real soldiers?" A few shoved his bunk as they passed. York lay awake, Bible open, reading Exodus and Matthew by dim light, wrestling deep. Captain E.C.B. Danforth heard about it quick. A thoughtful officer from a good family, he pulled York aside after drill one day. "Private, you're strong as an ox and steady under pressure, but this refusal, it's causing talk. Explain it straight." York stood at attention. "Sir, I was raised on the Bible. My church teaches pacifism. War's wrong for a Christian. I asked for exemption, but they denied it. I ain't scared. I'll do any duty but killin'." Danforth didn't dismiss him. Instead, he noted York's performance on the rifle range the next week. Qualification day. Targets popping at 200, 300 yards. City boys fumbled the heavy Enfields, scores mediocre. York, he breathed slow, sighted like drawing on a wild turkey back home, picked the head, squeezed gentle, and punched center hits every time. Expert marksman, highest in the company. Even Pusher grudgingly admitted, "Lucky shots maybe, but damn, hillbilly can shoot." Still, the objector issue festered. Men shunned him at chow, whispered slacker. Danforth consulted battalion commander Major George Edward Buxton, a devout Baptist from New England, known for fairness and deep Bible knowledge. Buxton agreed to talk. They met in the officers' mess after lights out, lanterns flickering, 3 Bibles on the table. "Son," Buxton began, gentle, "I respect a man who stands by conviction, but let's examine the Word together." They pored over passages for hours, York citing "Thou shalt not kill," "Turn the other cheek," "Blessed are the peacemakers." Buxton countered with Romans 13, "The powers that be are ordained of God." He read of David's wars, Joshua's conquests. Government bears the sword for justice. This war ain't personal hate. It's stopping a bully from enslaving nations. York pushed back earnest. But taking life, it's eternal. How can a Christian do that? Nights turned into weeks of debates. Buxton lented books on just war. Danforth joined sometimes, sharing stories of German atrocities in Belgium. York grew troubled, isolated more. Teasing escalated. Someone scrawled "coward" on his locker. Finally, Buxton granted a 10-day furlough. Go home, pray on the mountain like you told me you do, seek God's will clear. York boarded the train north, Bible in hand. Back in Pall Mall, he climbed the high ridges alone, Wolf River rushing below, pines whispering. He fasted 3 days, knelt on rocks, cried out, "Lord, show me plain. If fighting's wrong, give me strength to face prison. If it's thy will, make it clear." On the 3rd day, wind rustling pages, a peace settled. He saw the war as defensive, protecting home, family, freedom. Not murder, but mercy to end greater evil quicker. Returned to Gordon resolved, met Buxton and Danforth. "Gentlemen, the Lord spoke to me on the mountain. It's right to fight this war. I'll do my duty full, not with hate, but to save lives." Eyes widened. Buxton smiled. "Welcome to the fight, Corporal York." Promotion came swift. Teasing faded as men saw his sincerity. Pusher slapped his back. "Guess the farm boys all in now." May 1918, the 82nd Division, all American, men from every state, embarked for France. Troop ships zigzagged across U-boat waters, men seasick below decks. York wrote letters home to Gracie Williams, his love suite. "The Lord watches over us. Pray for me." Chaumont, France. General John J. Pershing's headquarters buzzed with maps and staff officers. The AEF commander, ramrod straight, mustache trimmed sharp, pored over plans. America entered late, but he'd built an army of millions from scratch. Fresh doughboys, eager but raw. French and British allies bled white after 4 years. Verdun's 700,000 casualties. Somm's slaughter. Looked on skeptical. "Brave lads," a British liaison remarked over tea, "but can they face Prussian machine guns without bolting?" Pershing demanded an independent American force. "No amalgamating into Allied units. We'll fight as Americans." He planned the Meuse-Argonne, massive push through tangled forest to cut German railroads at Sedan. End the war. September 26, 1918. The offensive erupted. 1.2 million Americans attacking. Biggest U.S. operation ever. Artillery thundered days prior. Shells screaming overhead. Doughboys advanced into hell. Dense argonne thickets hiding wire. Ravines. Hills honeycombed with concrete nests. German veterans poured fire. Machine guns chattering. Gas shells bursting. Gains slow. Costly. Thousands fell daily. Divisions stalled. Men weary in mud. Allied observers fretted. French General Pétain confided, "The Americans attack with elan, but inexperience costs dear." British Field Marshal Haig nodded. "They'll learn, but at what price?" October 7th. The 82nd relieved exhausted units near Châtel-Chichery. York's battalion tasked with capturing Hill 223, silencing guns enfilading the line. That night in a muddy ditch, men shivered sharing K-rations. Pusher whispered, "This forest is a butcher's yard. Think we'll break through?" York quoted scripture soft, "The Lord is my shepherd." Dawn, October 8th. Fog clung thick. Sergeant Early's platoon, 17 men, including Corporal York, got orders, infiltrate left, flank the machine guns from the rear. They moved stealthy, hunters in brush, slipped past outposts, descended a ravine, emerged in a clearing, German Battalion HQ, 30 or so soldiers breakfasting, rifles stacked. Americans rushed, "Honde hook!" Hands shot up, prisoners secured. But higher on the ridge, a full machine gun company, 100+ men in tiered nests, spotted them. Hell broke loose. Maxims rattled. Bullets whipped like hornets. 9 Americans dropped instant, dead or screaming wounded. Early gut shot, gasping, "York, take command!" Then silent. Only 7 privates and York left standing, prisoners flattened in terror. York, exposed on the slope, felt calm descend, like sighting game back home. He worked uphill deliberate, using stumps and folds for cover. Germans popped heads to fire. He sighted quick, squeezed. 1 down, another. Methodical, like turkey shoot. Pick the head, squeeze gentle, and punched center hits every time. 20 killed clean with rifle. Ammo low, he switched to Colt .45. Then horror. A German lieutenant rallied 6 men, bayonets fixed, charging downhill screaming. York, pistol expert, dropped them all, hip shots steady. Last round for the officer lunging closest. Survivors broke. The lieutenant blew a whistle frantic. Surrender. York rose bold. "Come on down, you squareheads, all of ya." Bluffed fierce, voice carrying. Use the officer to shout orders. Stragglers emerged from nests, hands high. 132 prisoners total, including a major. 35 machine guns spiked, plus mortars, ammo. With surviving doughboys herding the column, prisoners in long file, York prodding the officer ahead, they marched back. Past stunned American lines. Battalion HQ, officers gaped. "York, you captured a battalion?" He shrugged humble. "The good Lord guided my hand, sir. I aimed careful, no hate." News rocketed up, division to corps to Pershing. He cabled congratulations. Sergeant York, greatest civilian soldier of the war. Medals poured. Medal of Honor, French Croix de Guerre avec Palme, Legion of Honneur. But impact deeper. In foxholes, word spread. That farm boy took 132 prisoners single-handed? Morale soared. Doughboys, farm kids, factory hands saw themselves in York. Raw American grit, backwoods skill turning tide. Offensive surged. Breakthroughs by late October. Sedan threatened. Pershing reflected in reports. Planners expected massed divisions, artillery, but individuals like York, sharpshooter, faith-driven, exceeded, turned Green Army into victors. Allied commanders marveled. French liaison, un homme seul contre une compagnie, incroyable. British officer, your Yanks bring something new, individual dash. That hillbilly hero proves it. November 11, armistice. Cheers echoed trenches. May 1919, York shipped home. New York first. Ticker tape parade down Fifth Avenue. Crowds roaring. Confetti blizzard. He stood awkward in open car, waving shy, overwhelmed. Reporters swarmed. "Sergeant, how'd you do it?" "Wasn't me, just the Lord." Offers flooded. Movies, he allowed one later. Vaudeville. Endorsements worth fortunes. He turned most down. Didn't fight for money. Train south to Tennessee. Jamestown station packed. Bands playing. Flags waving. Governor spoke. Crowds cheered. Then Pall Mall. Quiet valley, but folks lined roads. Neighbors, church family. His mother waited on the porch, tears streaming as he embraced her. "Ma, I'm home." Gracie there too. Married days later. Simple outdoor ceremony under oaks. Tennessee raised funds for a farm, rich bottomland he'd dreamed of. But York saw needs. Mountain kids without schools, roads rutted mud. Used fame to build York Institute, modern school with vocational training. Fought for highways, electricity. Traveled speaking, faith, education, patriotism.
Years later, officers reflected. Pershing and Memoirs. York's deed epitomized American spirit, humble citizen rising heroic. Veterans gathered. We were stuck in mud, dying slow. Then York's story, one man breaking a line, made us believe. The shock wasn't the feat alone. Brave men abound in war. It was the man, ridiculed farm boy, former objector, who reconciled faith with fury, then overwhelmed seasoned foe. Allies knew millions coming, but seeing it in York, Bible-quoting sharpshooter capturing armies, crystallized the shift. Europe fought with tradition, exhaustion. America brought fresh abundance, men like York, ordinary yet extraordinary when called. They laughed at the farm boy for his accent, his Bible, his doubts, until October 8th, when he stood alone in the Argonne, rifle steady, and brought 132 enemies marching out surrendered. That was the revelation, not just soldiers, but citizens capable of turning wars. And because of men like him, the Allies won. In Pall Mall, York farmed quiet, raised children, taught Sunday school. When asked about the day, I just done what I had to. The Lord did the rest. But the story lived on, how ridicule turned to awe, how one reluctant warrior helped end the Great War. That was the American contribution, not perfect, but overwhelming when roused. The morning after his return from furlough, the company sensed the shift in York immediately. He carried himself with quiet assurance during inspection, no longer hesitant. Captain Danforth noticed and nodded approval from the sidelines. Sergeant Early gathered the platoon later that day for a talk. Corporal York settled his conscience. He's with us full now. Treat him as such. The men murmured agreement, respect beginning to replace mockery. Pusher tested the waters at noon chow, sitting across from York with his tray. So, you really gonna shoot krauts now, or still just squirrels? York looked up, calm. Fork paused. If the Lord wills it to protect the innocent, yes. Ain't about pleasure, it's duty. Pusher chewed thoughtful, then shrugged. Fair enough, long as you watch my back, too. Afternoon drills focused on squad tactics in wooded terrain simulating France. York excelled instinctively, pointing out cover others missed, directing fire lines. Danforth watched through binoculars, impressed. He jotted notes for Buxton's report. York's natural woodsman skills will prove invaluable overseas. The major read it later and smiled faintly. Evenings in the barracks grew less hostile. York shared stories of mountain hunting, how to read sign, move silent, judge wind. City boys listened rapt, imagining far-off ridges. One private from Chicago asked about turkey shooting technique. York demonstrated sight picture with his fingers, explaining breath control, patient. The rifle range became York's domain. Instructors used him as example for new recruits struggling with the Enfield's kick. Watch Corporal York, smooth trigger, no jerk. Scores improved across the company as men emulated his steady form. Pusher qualified sharpshooter finally, crediting York's quiet tips. Bayonet practice no longer saw York sidelined. He charged dummies with controlled ferocity, twisting as taught, but eyes calm. Sergeant Early grunted approval. That's the spirit, boy. Channel it right. The platoon ran the course faster with York leading assaults. A Sunday service in the camp chapel drew more men when word spread York would read. He chose passages on courage and justice, voice strong and sincere. Even agnostics attended for the singing, York leading hymns a cappella, harmony rich. Major Buxton dropped by one evening for a final talk. They walked the parade ground under stars, discussing faith in war. "You've grown, son. Many wrestle less and break." York replied soft, "It was hard, sir, but clarity came." They parted with a handshake firm. Live fire exercises in the Georgia pines tested the division's readiness. York's squad navigated ambush scenarios flawless, flanking enemy positions silent. Danforth praised him publicly. "That's how it's done, men. Learn from York." Heads nodded, ridicule forgotten. On the troop ship bound for Europe, York helped organize deck drills to combat boredom. He taught knot tying from farm days, useful for securing gear. Men laughed as city slickers fumbled ropes, York demonstrating patience. Seasickness hit hard mid-Atlantic, bunks reeking of vomit. York, stomach iron from mountain trails, tended the worst cases, cool cloths, encouragement. Pusher heaving over rail, rasped, "You're a saint, farm boy." York chuckled, "Just neighborly." U-boat scares sent men to lifeboat stations multiple times. York remained calm, helping load belts and preserve order. His steadiness reassured younger recruits, terrified of the depths. One night, depth charges boomed distant. York prayed aloud with a circle of men. Liverpool arrival cheers from dockworkers, flags waving for the Yanks. York marveled at ships bigger than any valley barn, crowds denser than Jamestown Fair Day. He wrote Gracie,
"England's green and pretty, but hills ain't like home. Train to France, cross channel on ferries, men packed tight. French villages flash by, stone houses, vineyards. Soldiers waved from platforms, shouting, 'Bonjour, Americans.' York practiced phrases from a pocketbook, earnest. Training camps in France introduced gas warfare deep. York mastered the mass quick, helping others seal fits. Instructors noted his lack of panic during simulated attacks. 'That one's cool under pressure,' a French sergeant observed. Trench digging practice in muddy fields prepared him for the real thing. York shoveled tireless, revetments neat from farm ditching experience. His section finished first, earning extra liberty. Men spent it writing letters home. Night maneuvers taught patrol craft. York led small groups through dark woods, avoiding sentries flawless. His hearing, tuned to deer and Tennessee brush, picked up snaps others missed. Danforth promoted him again, sergeant now. Bible study groups grew popular in billets. York read by candle, explaining verses on peace and righteous defense. Men from varied faiths attended, finding common solace. Hymns echoed soft in barns converted to quarters. A letter from home reached York, Brace's careful script, full of love and valley news. He read it thrice, then shared snippets with close comrades. Pusher teased gentle, "Your girl's a keeper, Sarge." York smiled shy. Artillery familiarization came with French 75s and American heavies. The roar shook bones, but York adjusted sights accurate on practice ranges. Gunners asked his spotting tips from hunting days. Pershing inspected the division one crisp morning, troops at attention hours. He paused before York's company, eyes sharp. Danforth saluted crisp. "Fine body of men, sir." Pershing nodded, unaware of the quiet sergeant who'd soon make history. Rumors of the big offensive circulated, massive push to end the war. Maps in officers' tents showed Argonne's tangled lines. York studied stolen glances, mind tracing paths like game trails back home. Supply dumps grew huge, ammo, rations, barbed wire piled high. York helped unload trains, muscles straining, but spirit willing. He marveled at America's abundance. "We got enough to bury the Kaiser in bullets." French civilians in nearby villages welcomed doughboys with wine and bread. York polite, accepting little, but sharing chocolate from rations. Children followed him, fascinated by his height and accent. A Red Cross canteen offered coffee and donuts, first taste of home in weeks. York cued patient, thanking volunteers earnest. He wrote mother about the kindness, easing her worries. Machine gun training with Vickers and show shots tested patience. Jams frequent, but York cleared 'em quick, instructing squad calm. His steady hands became legend in the platoon. Marching songs echoed on roads, new verses about Yanks whipping Huns. York joined soft on choruses, voice deep and true. Men requested hymns sometimes, mood shifting reflective. Rest periods brought baseball games in fields. York played outfield, snagging flies easy with long reach. His team won often, boosting company pride. Dental inspections lined men up, drills whining. York endured stoic, teeth strong from simple diet. Medics joked, mountain boys got iron jaws. Delousing stations steamed uniforms, powder shaken liberal. York scratched philosophical, remembering chiggers back home worse. Mail call became sacred, names shouted, letters clutched like gold. York's arrivals from Gracie and Ma lifted the entire bunk. A chaplain held services in a ruined church, roof open to sky. York attended faithful, kneeling on stone cold, but heart warm. Wire cutting practice under simulated fire honed skills. York snipped gaps fast, low crawling expert from hunting prone. Grenade throwing ranges saw York lobbing Mills bombs pinpoint into pits. Instructors timed him fastest, most accurate. Rumors of poison gas horrors circulated, mustard, phosgene tales from veterans. York prayed extra for protection, mask always ready. The division moved forward by truck and foot, closer to the sounds of war. Artillery rumbled constant now, horizon flickering mites. Foxholes dug deeper in reserve lines, rain turning them to soup. York bailed water methodical, keeping gear dry. First mail from the front reached him, censored but reassuring. York wrote back careful, hiding hardships. Pusher confided fears one night, scared I'll let the side down. York reassured, we all scared, but together and with God we'll manage. Sergeant Early drilled the platoon relentless on signals and formations. York memorized quick, helping slower learners. A French liaison taught bayonet tricks from their manuals. York adapted them smooth, blending with American style. Equipment checks endless, rifles clean till barrels shone. York oiled his infield living like the old Kentucky rifle back home. Stars visible on clear nights reminded him of mountain skies. He pointed constellations to city boys ignorant of them. Dreams of home visited often, Grace's smile, Ma's cooking, church sending. Woke determined to return. The offensive date approached, tension thick as fog. Officers' briefings more frequent, maps guarded close. York led prayer circles small, men bowing heads in dugouts. Words simple, faith profound. Final equipment issue, extra ammo, grenades heavy. Packs bulged, but York shouldered easy. Whispers of 0 hour circulated, soon, very soon. Men wrote final letters, sealed careful. York's last letter to Gracie, whatever comes, know you're my heart, the Lord holds us. Dawn movements in darkness, platoons assembling silent, hearts pounding, but resolve firm. Into the forest they went, leaves rustling like whispers of warning. First shells failed distant, then closer, German counter-barrage probing. York's platoon waited orders, crouched low, breaths steady as possible. Early checked watches, face grim but proud. This is it, boys, make it count. Fog lifted slow, revealing tangled wire and shattered trees ahead. Whistles blew sharp, over the top, into the maelstrom. York advanced, deliberate, rifle ready, eyes scanning for threats. Machine guns opened distant, traces arcing red and mist. Men dropped around him, but he pressed on, squad following close. Objectives marked on maps seemed miles in the thick brush.
York spotted a nest early, directed fire pinpoint, silenced quick. Comrades cheered quiet, confidence growing with each success. Hours blurred, advancing, digging in, advancing again. Night fell cold, flares popping overhead like cruel stars. York shared rations sparse, encouraging weary men soft. Dawn renewed attacks, progress slow but inexorable. German counterattacks repelled fierce, bayonets flashing close. York's aim saved lives multiple times, picking off officers leading charges. Platoon held a captured trench, fortifying hasty against return. Wounded cared for best possible, morphine syrettes precious. Runners brought ammo, news of gains elsewhere encouraging. York wrote mental notes for letters home, if he survived. The day of October 8th dawned particularly foggy, visibility poor. Orders came crisp, flank the hill, take those guns. Platoon moved out stealthy, York point man instinctive. Brush thick, boots silent on fallen leaves damp. German voices heard distant, breakfast chatter careless. Surprise complete, prisoners taken without shot. Then the ridge awoke, Maxims roaring death. Comrades fell fast, screams cut short. York assumed command natural, voice steady in chaos. Moved uphill alone essentially, cover to cover. Each exposure calculated, shots returned lethal. Germans frantic, heads popping like targets back home. Count rose, 10, 15, 20 confirmed. Pistol drawn seamless when rifle empty. Charge met with cool fire, attackers crumpling. Surrender inevitable, white rags waving desperate. Prisoners assembled, column formed under guard. March back triumphant, American lines cheering incredulous. Officers questioned detailed, reports written hasty. News spread like wildfire through the AEF. Pershing informed personally, satisfaction evident. Allies toasted the feat in headquarters distant. Morale boost tangible, men attacking bolder. Advance accelerated, Germans reeling now. York decorated in field ceremonies, simple but proud. Medals pinned, hands shaken firm. But he remained humble, deflecting praise to God and fallen. Offensive concluded successful, war's end in sight. Armistice negotiations rumored, then
confirmed. Silence on November 11th profound after years of noise. Men emerged from holes, blinking, disbelieving peace. York wept quiet with comrades, relief overwhelming. Homeward bound slow, but joyful now. Parades, honors, but heart set on quiet life. Farm, family, service to community his true reward. Legacy built brick by brick, school, roads, hope. Children educated because of his fame, used wise. Mountain region transformed, gradual but sure. Faith central always, church role deepened. Stories told grandchildren wide-eyed around the fire. How Grandpa York captured an army alone. How faith and courage combined mighty. How ridicule turned to legend swift. That day in Argonne forever etched. One man, one rifle, one moment decisive. American spirit distilled pure in action. From farm boy laughed at to hero revered. The transformation complete, enduring. History books recorded accurate, films dramatized, but truth simpler, duty done faithful. Lord guided, man obeyed. That was Sergeant Alvin York's way. Quiet power, profound impact. Story inspiring generations hence. Courage born of conviction deep. America's contribution unique. Citizens, soldiers, when called, rising extraordinary. In York, perfectly embodied, from farm hills to world stage.